Like I said, we're going to look at news and announcements from the last couple weeks because I was gone last week and I want to catch up, and there's so much interesting things to talk about. First off, Warhammer Plus. Now, I talked about this before. The last time I did this stream a couple weeks ago, or was it the time before that even? Anyway, they announced like all the stuff. So here's a bigger update that they released a week and a half ago about all the stuff that's going to be on Warhammer Plus. It is a new streaming service that you can sign up for. You can pay monthly, you can sign up for a year, typical kind of thing. It's going to have event extras. So if you go to an official Games Workshop tournament, event, who knows, you'll get something. What it is, who knows? Maybe they'll stamp your hand with a cool colored stamp. We don't know. It's just something. And if you live in an area where there are no officially sanctioned Games Workshop events near you, or you just don't like to go to such things, or in this current world you don't plan on ever going to them, then you're shit out of luck with this, and it's not going to mean anything to you. So, next is the Warhammer Vault. They're going to release a bunch of old content from White Dwarf magazines and some other things. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting to some people, not to a lot of people, to be honest. The free exclusive miniature. This obviously is cool. This is going to be a big draw for a bunch of people. There's an Uruk from Age of Sigmar, the fantasy game, and there is a Vindicare Assassin from 40k, which is what I think most people are going to pick for their free miniature. But again, you sign up for the streaming service and you actually get a miniature in your hand. But not for a year, because they're not coming anytime soon. So keep that in mind. I guess the other big draw, but the headlining draw is the animation. So there's going to be a number of new series, new specials, sort of like movies. We don't know exactly what the lineup is going to be, but new animation on Warhammer Plus. That's the big thing. Apps. You're going to get free access to the official 40k and Age of Sigmar apps, which is sure something that people are going to be interested in, and exclusive Warhammer TV shows. So these are going to be they've already talked about, they're going to be lore episodes, and they're going to be like painting tutorials and things like that, which most of all of that you can just find on the internet already for free, including massive amounts officially from Games Workshop that are really good and free and already out there. But now I guess you could watch it through another streaming service, wherever you want to do this. Anyway, it is, I will say, for putting aside what the actual content is and what we know of it, the price is certainly affordable. It's $6 a month here for the US. That's in line with several other streaming services. It's much cheaper than something like HBO Max. And then, of course, if you do a full year, it's only $60. So you get a little bit of a deal on a full year. It launches, this coming week? Yeah, in just a couple days. And, yeah. So, so that's it. It says it will be available at launch on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. So it's going to be on a bunch of the different services that most people use. Assuming I get it, I'll definitely be watching it on the Roku. It doesn't say that it will necessarily be on Kindles. I have a Kindle Fire, and I watch a lot of stuff on there, so I'd like that to be on there. It does say they're aiming to cover even more platforms post-launch. Hey, Erdinsk, welcome. And a dedicated website. Oh, so you can just watch it through the website. Okay. So anyway, look, there's going to be a number of things. We don't know exactly what there's going to be. I'm sure the second it comes out, people are going to, compile and post lists of, everything that's available on the service. We just don't know for now. Yeah, I mean, look, this kind of thing, it would be great if it succeeded. They're working with, they've brought in formerly independent animators that are fan favorites that have done some really cool things out there in the fan community now to be part of the official stuff. I mean, the minis look great. Yeah, so as Rabid Wombat says, given how salty everyone is, I bet someone's going to rip everything and post it to the internet. I mean, that happens no matter what, right? Anytime there's, like I said, I have a friend, and literally the second anything is online via any streaming service, he can download it from his special sites. I don't know anything about it, but that's what he does. Yeah, the internet will pirate things. I'm of two minds here. There is a fairly substantial Brandon Roblox Spinner, exactly. There is a fairly substantial fan pushback against this, partly because of like the general IP nonsense that people don't understand, partly because Games Workshop has gobbled up some of these formerly independent fan animators, even though that's what everybody wanted. There's some great memes that people have made about the circle of, Games Workshop sucks. We love fan animators. Wouldn't it be cool if Games Workshop hired the fan animators? Fan animators get hired. It sucks. They grab everything and take over everything. So it's like this endless circular firing squad. Anyway, for all of the issues that people have and whine and complain about, I also believe that a lot of Warhammer fans are going to be paying for this service. They might not be talking about it. They might not announce it to everybody online and all their friends. But they're going to do it. Because again, these are all of the people. Look, according to some fans, Games Workshop has never done anything right. They complain about every single thing Games Workshop ever does, but they still buy the models. They still buy the books. They still play the game. Yeah, they'll pirate some codexes and things like that, but they're still buying shit. And I think that's going to be the way this goes as well. It'll also be interesting to see, again, these models don't come out for another year, basically. So once they actually come out, it'll be interesting to see how quickly these start showing up from recasters. And I got to imagine that there are 3D modelers who have already made, or who are already working on sort of recreating these things via 3D models, just to, stick it to the man, as the case may be. So, it is what it is. Zardoz, yeah, fans certainly are weird. I heard vague rumblings about this wrestling thing that happened last night. I don't understand it. I'm not in that world. Feel free to explain it to me if there's a way to, or not. It's fine. You don't have to love everything. It's all good. So anyway, so that's Warhammer Plus. We're going to come back to this in a little bit when we talk about the episode that just came out this morning. But I'm just going to leave that as a tease. We'll get back to it. I'm trying to go a little bit in chronological order with announcements over the last couple weeks. Zarda says, last I heard one of those I saw, last one of those I saw had a cease and desist rain out of the sky so hard it closed his Patreon regarding the recast and 3D sculpts. Yeah, now again, as we talked about, any rules and any laws that are on the books, or any guidelines that Games Workshop puts forward, are only as dangerous and affecting the community as Games Workshop is willing to pay their lawyers to go and fight these things. So in many cases, if you're small enough, if you have if you're just distributing things to friends online, or if you're naming things appropriately and it's through a website where you don't know who anybody is, they're not going to touch you. If you're big enough that you have a Patreon, you have something, it's got your name on it, people can find it easily, you may have a number of followers, then you're more likely to get a cease and desist letter. They're not immediately going to come and sue you and do all this crazy stuff, but it is possible that, some things will get shut down. So there. Ooh, Rabid Wombat, that's good. I think the best way to describe the wrestling thing is that it was like Gilliman coming out of stasis and becoming an Ultramarine again. All right, I can understand that. That's definitely helpful. And I know it's CM Punk, and I know he's wrestling again with somebody, but I okay. And again, we're catching up on some old news, but this was a big deal for a lot of people. I talked about this at one point briefly, but I wanted to mention it again. Black Templars. Black Templars are a thing. They're a chapter of Space Marines, and they're getting a shiny new model, the Emperor's Champion. This model looks fantastic. It comes from a lineage of their previous. Well, there was a previous. Where is it? It's down here somewhere. Yeah, so there's the old one. The old one was a rad model. The new one is a rad model. It's great. Every Black Templar player is going to go out and get this thing. I'm very interested to see how this is released, though. I have to imagine it's in some kind of big battle box, and you're going to have to pay a lot of money to get it with a bunch of other crap, but that's the way things are. So yeah, Black Templars are among arguably the most zealous and zealotry really captures it, but of the Space Marines, they actually do worship the Emperor, which is fairly unique among the Space Marines. They hate psychers. They've got some unique things to them, and they've got a bunch of interesting iconography. Unfortunately, they're one of the factions within Space Marines that certain people gravitate to who are not great in real life because of their zealotry and xenophobia and humanity first. That kind of stuff resonates with some people specifically, but yeah. Anyway, cool new model. Who knows if the army is going to get a supplementary codex, so not their own full codex, but they're going to have some units and some characters specific to them. They've always had those things, and special rules. So yeah, if you're a Black Templars player, you're going to get a cool new model. Probably just the one. I can't see Black Templars getting a bunch of new stuff, but you never know. And yeah, he's got a bunch of trinkets and doodads and fancy relics. And it is a Primaris champion. Yeah, Zarda, like Zarda's saying, they don't need a lot of new models. This is kind of the model that everybody's been wondering if it's going to come with the addition of Primaris, like new, bigger, tougher Marines. Are they going to upgrade the Emperor's Champion to a Primaris? And lo and behold, they have. It's really interesting. So this guy in particular, the Emperor's Champion. It's not based, that rank is not based on seniority or any specific accomplishments. It's literally one day a Black Templar wakes up having had visions and dreams and, directly put into his head by the Emperor, or so they believe. And then everybody's like, okay, cool, you're the champion. And then they give him a cool sword and all these relics, and he becomes a champion. So it could be somebody who's fought for thousands of years, and it could be somebody who's brand new, just whoever embodies the spirit of the Emperor and the Imperium of mankind. Space Marines, yeah, sometimes they sleep. They sort of like turn off. They have a special organ for that, the catalepsian node. I think that's node. I think it's a node. Anyway, yeah, they don't sleep very much in combat or out, but yeah. So anyway, Black Templars, cool new model. I don't go over a ton of hobby stuff on this stream, but I did want to point out we've got turn simple stone scenery into works of art with this step-by-step painting guide. And this is really, really cool. And it looks, on one hand, it's a number of steps, but it's not an extreme amount of steps. But I want to show what this is talking about here. So it's about, again, it's making something look like stone and metal, and how you can do it in a simple process. Oh well, Eridans. So those are Chaos Space Marines, and they're special. Yeah, the World Eaters with their, they've got all sorts of stuff going on in their brains. Okay, so first off, prime with Wraithbone spray, and then basically make sure it's covered with Wraithbone, which again is sort of off-white color. And again, before this, it was just bare plastic. So prime it in Wraithbone. Then just slap a coat of Agrax Earthshade, which if you saw me working on my Knight, so again, this was all shiny, and then I put a wash, well, it's shade, but Nuln Oil, so it's a black wash that went over the whole thing and just sort of darkens everything, especially flowing into the recesses. So that's what they did here with Agrax Earthshade, which is a brown shade. So it just gets into all the crevices and it just darkens everything, but it gives it a cool texture. So bam, already this thing looks cool. But wait, there's more. Oh, and for this one, he diluted his. So you can, just like regular paint, you can put this on your palette and add water and thin it out, depending on how much darker and how much contrast you want. So first he did it thin, then he did it again just around like the deeper areas, so around the skulls, well, skulls on top, skulls on the bottom. Then dry brushing with Wraithbone, so the same color that he did the first time, dry brush. And again, if you're not familiar with dry brushing, essentially what that means is you take the best are brushes that are not like this, but if you had a brush where the bristles were, honestly, the best dry brushing brushes are those that are frayed and old and sticking in all directions. And what you do is you load up the brush with paint, and then you take a paper towel and you dab all of the wet paint off, so there's just a little bit of tiny bit of dry paint inside, and you just gently go over the model, and what happens is it just hits any raised areas and leaves behind just a tiny amount of paint. But it's dry brushing is if you do it right, and you gotta learn it, but it can look really, really cool. Mel Pimento, 9 months resubscription. Thank you so much. Yes. Congratulations, it's twins. Yeah, exactly. And once you have used a brush and ruined a brush, then it becomes a dry brush, and it's great. So he dry brushes on some Wraithbone, and then another set of dry brush just on the outer edges and give it a final highlight. Again, none of this stuff that he's described so far is all that hard. It just takes a little bit of time, and already, again, at every step it looks even better, but you could stop there. Gold on the metal parts, so just this outer rim, the spikes, and then the spikes running down the sides. Base coat this part in a silver color. Rabid Wombat, I know you are very familiar with gold paint. Again, same shading those with the Agrax Earth shade. And again, it gives it that like lived feeling, a little bit of wear, also darker, around certain recesses. And then again, dry brush, a little bit of silver, so you can see the difference here. So look at these studs going around the top, right? So you can see that they're the gold, and then the shade makes them a little darker around them. And then you dry brush, and that silver, look, it just picks up the raised areas, so it just hits the very tops of those studs. And again, it looks like it's worn away over time. And then final steps, blood, and that's it. And this thing looks awesome. Anybody you'd be happy to put this on your table as terrain. And again, none of those steps are super complicated. None of those steps involve having to do tiny details either. Honestly, the most detailed thing is painting the gold, because there are a couple of those like little spiky areas that are small. But yeah, I mean that's a pretty darn good tutorial on how to make terrain look awesome without putting in a million hours of painstaking work on it. Highly recommended. I thought that was very cool. I wanted to share that. We love gold. Arsenal Roy, you absolutely can do that. Okay. Back to 40k and Codexes. You know them, you love them. They're the books that give us all our cool rules. Aaron, is it odd that you think it looked better after the second set? No, and of course, people have different preferences. Depending on how you want your terrain to look like, you have so many different options. Like I talked about with models, you can build things and paint things to look like they are brand new, or like they've been around for thousands and thousands of years and are worn and partly destroyed or covered in blood. It's just total personal preference. But also gives you narrative options, right? If you build a set of terrain, maybe not just one piece, but several pieces that go on your table, and they make, a scene that looks like a certain planet or ruins from a certain culture, and they are clean, that gives you a much different story to play around with versus that same thing, but painted like it's worn down, or covered in blood, or covered in snow, or covered in graffiti. Like, each one of those tells a very different story about the setting for your battle. And if you're into story, like a lot of us are, then it gives you some cool options. Yeah, Rabbit Wombat, that's true. So, like, as Rabbit Wombat says, the old White Dwarf magazines that will be available with your Warhammer Plus subscription have a lot of painting tips, brief, really functional things like that in it. Okay, Codexes. Codexes are supremely important because it gives you new rules on how to play the models that you already have or the armies that you're interested in buying. And it's a slog waiting for your Codex to come around. Unless you're Space Marines, and then you're always first. And then by the time they get to the end, you get a refresh and you get another new Codex. So here we have August, Grey Knights and Thousand Suns, so you can go and get those. September, we've got Orcs, that is out now. Right? Yeah. Oh, right, in the Beast Snaggers box. Okay. In November, we've got Black Templars. And then in December, we've got 2 books. It says redacted. What does it say here? It's not September yet. But the book came with the Beast Snaggers army set, which came out, so they, like, whatever. Here you go. Yeah, that stuff is already out. So yeah, these are the December ones. And it says, brand new codexes for Xenos and Imperial armies. What could they be? We can't tell you, which has nothing to do with the Inquisitor looming menacingly behind us. Now, my first thought, and I'm not the only one, is where is Chaos? What's going on with Chaos? And their final note down here says, eagle-eyed heretics may note the lack of codexes for the traitor legions. Of course, other than Thousand Suns, which was just came out, whatever. Do not despair, as 2022 will be a bumper year for warp-based shenanigans. Give it to me. So, anyway, we've got these 2 things coming out. They're weird. Who knows what the final artwork is going to be anyway. Yeah. So expect a couple more codexes by the end of the year, assuming distribution works right and things come on time, which has been a big question the last 2 years. Yeah, and as Arda was saying, of course, with new codexes will inevitably be new either battle boxes where you'll get a portion of an army, or army boxes or battle boxes where you'll get 2 armies facing each other, and those will be the ones that are getting new codexes. They'll do all sorts of kind of crap, so you can buy a bunch of new books and a bunch of new models. Yeah, or Knights, right? We're still waiting for Knights for 9th edition. But going into 2020, we're going to see a bunch of new codexes for all the armies. Yay. Yeah, the Rattling Cookbook. All right, so this was the preview from last week, but we're gonna talk about the this is all old news now. Go away. Okay, I don't know if Nerdy Duck is here, but it was just I was surprised by this. But hey, surprise, we got a preview of new Tyranid rules. Oh, there you are. I know you were very excited. So it says, spread terrifying abilities across your swarm by upgrading Tyranid monsters with new synaptic links. Yes. Now again, these are new Tyranid rules that are housed within the War Zone Octarius Book 1 Rising Tide book. So if you play Tyranids, you need your Codex. You need this book as well. You need all of the chapter approved every year for your current point totals and adjustments. You need to have the FAQs that you download from the websites just to play your one army. Or just have Battlescribe, and that's fine. Zarda says, the new bug rules in this book lead me to think that we're not getting a bug book soon. Yeah, probably not. That I had that same thought. If they're previewing and including a bunch of stuff in this Warzone book that's coming out now, their Codex is probably still a little ways off. But you never know. So anyway, some new rules with synaptic links. So essentially, Tyranids of all sorts of cool bubble effects, buffs, and things that can go off, and now you can sort of daisy chain them and affect other things, and it's great. I mean, the whole idea of Tyranids, again, is that they're massive hordes of bugs interspersed with some smarter, higher, more evolved creatures who are leading them and who have access to better abilities. So this is perfect, narratively and mechanically, to go along with what we already know of Tyranids. Yeah, new Tyranid models. Let's do it. So the Broodlord can give people cover, and which is awesome. People are hiding. Master of the Shadows. It makes total sense. Neurothropes, Psychic Creep, -1 from leadership and attrition tests. Yeah. The Tyranid kits are they're getting old. A little old. And then we've got some handy dandy diagrams on how this stuff works. So if you've got your Hive Tyrant over here, and he's got his aura, and then there's a Broodlord over here with his aura, and then So anyway, there's a lot. This is cool stuff. Hopefully this isn't the only thing Tyranids are getting in this book. But again, without a new Codex, don't expect too much. But you're getting some things. Yeah, Tyranids really, really need a plastic, good Lictor model. It's like a Cthulhu bug thing. We need a good one. So anyway, if you're into Tyranids, you've probably already read this information and you're already very excited about it. But check it out and make sure you get the Warzone book when it comes out, because it's going to be great. Great. Mentioned this a few months ago, but if you are in the UK, and I know a couple of you are, you have access to things that we don't here in the United States, or at least not yet, particularly with these magazine things. So for those of you who are not in the UK or in parts of Europe, there is a thing that they really like over there called Partworks. And this is just not something that exists in the United States to any degree, but you sign up for a subscription, and every month or every couple of weeks or 2 months or whatever it is, you get sent stuff. And that stuff you add together, and then at the end you have either an army of models or a very complicated large model. So looking at some other things, not just Games Workshop, but Eagle Moss, for instance, has a bunch of these where every month you get pieces that you add to a big model, and at the end of a year, 2 years, 5 years, you have a huge, incredibly detailed model that you've put together over all of that time. This is like I said, this is a very specifically UK thing that they've tried to introduce to the rest of the world with some successes in some places. It has not caught on here in the United States at all. They're still trying, and maybe one day it'll happen. Yeah, there's an Ecto 1. They've done a couple of other cars. Currently running from Eagle Moss is a Enterprise D model that is huge, and it is full of electronics and lights and all this crazy stuff. And it takes you years and years to build the whole damn thing. Anyway, so the latest one from Games Workshop, and they've done this before, is called Imperium Magazine. And again, the deal is you sign up for it. You get boxes every month, but every month you get a couple of packages. The point is, you get a little magazine, you get a couple of models, and then maybe some paints or paintbrushes or other stuff. But if you stick with it, at the end you'll have all of this. And it's a little hard to see, but essentially you get a big old Space Marine army, a big old Necron army, a bunch of terrain, and then some other allies for the Space Marines that are mixed in there somewhere. It's cool. It is not cheap. People have done breakdowns of what this will eventually cost you, and it was over $1,000, but the value that you get versus buying all of these things individually is pretty substantial. So if you're new and you're interested in these two armies and you're willing to spend that much money over the course of a year or however it is, then this is great. Or if you're looking to start new armies or add to your armies, whatever, then this is for you. If you have a friend and each one of you likes one of these armies, then that's the ideal situation. If none of those things, then this probably isn't for you. Now, again, if you're in the UK, you can actually go to stores and buy each one of these releases individually. Not here, but over there you can. And there's already, like I said, on Facebook, there's a looting group, and they have people in the UK who go to stores, buy a bunch of these, and then ship them all around the world to people who are interested in them. Because again, these individual kits will have models for $10, $15 that otherwise you'd have to buy in a kit that's, $50 to $100. So you can save massive amounts on specific things. There's also at least one exclusive model in this scheme that you can't get otherwise. So yeah, if you're interested, like I said, it's starting up in the UK now. Games Workshop has talked about doing this one here in the United States. I'm not going to do it. I don't need all these models, especially I don't need all this Necron crap. More power to you if you're a Necron player. Some great models there. I have no need of them, but it's cool. Oh, and this is the exclusive Primaris Captain that will be available. He's all right. Zardoz? Maybe so. Maybe we can work something out. I mean, I would hope this guy has a helmeted option. He might. Anyway. So yeah. And then, they'll throw in other little things. And there are options, too. You can add to your subscription and get, a Chaos Space Marines small attachment. And I think there's a Tau thing as well, and add to it. Oh, was it on his belt? I totally didn't notice. Oh, there it is. It's peeking behind. Awful. What is that haircut? It's fine. I'm sure some people absolutely love it. Yes, Matt's Necron army. Matt definitely needs this. So yeah, so if you're in the UK, you can sign up now. Otherwise, pay attention. Keep your eyes and ears open, because it may come out eventually. That is true, yeah. There are a bunch of Stormcast with that specific haircut. This would be actually a kind of a cool thing to do, like as a streaming thing. Sign up for this stuff. Every time you get one, you show it off and you build it, and you build and paint it as you go, and then you'd have that whole project done over the span of time. That'd be cool. I'm not planning on doing that, but that would be cool. Yeah, or Crusade, right? Because you basically you're building your play as you go too. Yeah, so you start off with a small gritty army, and then by the time you're at the end, you've got this massive couple 1,000-point army. So we mentioned that there are big Games Workshop tournament events going on here in the United States. There are a few that are happening in the South. They're going to end up in Texas and then here in California. But there are also events that are returning to Warhammer World, also again in the UK. So if you happen to be near there, you can go. Warhammer World has reopened. I know people have been going there already for a little while, but they're going to start having big events there again. Now, all of this, of course, is assuming that we don't have another massive resurgence of terrible COVID numbers and potentially everything could get shut down again. As Zardoz had the same thought. So take all of this with a grain of salt. If you make any sort of travel plans, get travel insurance. Highly recommend such things at this point in our lives, because you never know. You just never know. But man, and one day I would really, really like to go to Warhammer World. I would very much like to do that one day. I have no idea when I could possibly do that, or how financially, but it is high on my list of things I would like to do. So anyway, starting next week, they're going to sell tickets, and they've got Kill Team. Basically, it's all the things you'd expect. They've got 40K, they've got Kill Team, they've got Horus Heresy, they've got Age of Sigmar, blah, 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 blah. So if you're in the UK and you're willing to go out into the public, you can sign up for these things. Yeah. Oh, Zardoz, you go to Dallas in December? Cool. Cool. Our family is looking into possibly like doing a little bit of a drive-in trip adventure with the kids, all to places that are, outdoor, nature-y kind of things, so we don't have to interact with a lot of people. But who knows? I don't know if we were even going to do that. Oh, Christmas with the girlfriend and her family. Awesome. That's very cool. So this came out just the other day on Warhammer Community. Think you know your Warhammer? Take our quiz to see if you can beat the lore masters. Now, I consider myself fairly proficient with Warhammer 40k lore. Not so much Age of Sigmar or fantasy. But I am no means the most expert at any of this stuff. There are people out there who have been reading this stuff for 30 years who are much more expert than I am. So there's a quiz online that you can go and take this. Well, I'm not going to do it online, so if you want to do it, you can go and take it for yourself. This is a very difficult quiz. I'm going to say, for most people, this is a very difficult quiz. I did not get all of these right. I did not get all of the 40k questions right. I got most of them right, but not all of them. The Age of Sigmar ones, I just guessed. But, like here. Captain Erasmus Tycho of the Blood Angels was grievously wounded during the Second War for Armageddon by the sorcerous powers of an orc weird boy. Which psychic power laid him low and caused the damage to his face that his iconic mask would later hide? So it's not who was he fighting that injured him. It's not what planet he was fighting on that injured him. It's not what kind of an orc hurt him. It's what psychic power was the orc using that hurt him. So this is pretty specific lore questions that either you know it or you don't. I got this first one wrong, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I feel like it's kind of a trick question as well. Anyway, Like I said, I'm not going to give away the answer. If you feel like you want to challenge the Lore Masters, which again, Lore Masters is going to be a series on Warhammer Plus. So there you go. You can go and take this quiz. So I'm not going to give away the answers. Yeah, you should totally get Rabid Wombat. Should Zardoz get 1 Titan or should he get 2 Titans? 2 Titans. There was that place. The food was pretty good at that place across the street and up 1 block from the store, right? It was like a sandwich place. I think they said it was famous. I don't know. Somebody already mentioned it, but holy crap, look at these things. I've talked about this a lot. Over the last couple of years now, Games Workshop has opened the doors and their arms to a number of companies that make collectibles and novelties and stationery products and apparel and all this stuff. Their licenses flying out the doors. Koyo is a company that makes pins and badges and keychains and mugs and crap like that. And they're coming out with this. Yes, it is a plush Nurgling, and it is fantastic. I have to admit, as much as I despise and detest Nurglings, they're gross, they're stupid, this thing is pretty great. Oh my god, I'm sure that there are true fans who, what the fuck is this? This is something that appeals to kids, to normal people, that somebody who's not been a Warhammer player for 100 years would maybe even appreciate. God damn it, how could it? Yeah, screw those people. It's cute, it's silly, it's also gross. There could definitely be crossover appeal with this, with other people, if this ever showed up in a store. I mean, I could see the price. Okay, now, the price point for this is going to be ridiculous because it's a Warhammer related thing, and this is a very small company out of Japan, and all this stuff is imported, whatever. But it's adorable. Can you, for those of you who are in the US who know the store I'm talking about, can you imagine if this or something similar to this was at a fucking Hot Topic? People would go nuts for this. People would buy this not having any idea what it's from, and could actually, something like this could spread the word about a new property to new people. What? $60? Okay, that sounds about right for the situation. So yeah. So anytime something in your very insular hobby gets, at all repackaged to maybe be interesting to outside people, is some people are going to have a fit over it. Oh, 60 is a guess. Yeah, fair. Yeah, we don't know anything about it other than it's coming eventually. Ooh, I wonder if they'll have this here at the Monrovia store when it comes out. That'd be cool. I might actually have access to this without having to buy it online from a crazy website. Apparently, this thing exists. Not an official thing that you can buy. It's a one-of-a-kind thing at a Warhammer store on Tottenham Court Road in London. That thing is rad. It's also disgusting and will probably haunt my dreams. And then they say the first of many new plushies, including this adorable Gryph-hound. Yeah, as Zarda said, and they make note here, yeah, if you use your plush as a mini on the battlefield, that would be great. Yeah, so people are going to freak out about this stuff. How could it be grimdark if you're making a plush stuffed animal of it? You know what? Beat it. That's what I have to say. Calm down, Francis. Exactly. All right. Kill Team. We talked a lot about Kill Team over the last few weeks. Kill Team is upon us. You could have ordered the full Kill Team box last weekend. You can no longer, sadly. But you can still order the books and all of the stuff for it so you can play. We're not going to go through all of the rules because now most people know all the rules. There have been lots of previews of these things sent out, so people have done videos. They've talked about it. My local store already got theirs, and they've talked about it. There's a lot to it, but Kill Team seems pretty cool. I gotta say, I'm very excited to try it. Now there are some caveats. So they've revealed here that essentially when you start the game and during the game you have engage or concealed orders that you give to your operatives, and it provides them with certain bonuses and certain actions that they're supposed to do. Oh, cool pictures. I just like looking at the pictures. Yeah, so again, depending on what order you're in, you have different access to hiding and rules that interact with terrain. Rabbit Wombat says, I've watched some playthroughs on the YouTubes and it looks pretty straightforward. Cool. Yeah, I haven't watched any yet. Like I said, I've just heard from a friend of mine who works at the local store who read through the book. And then I posted a link in the Discord to a fairly brief breakdown of the new rules on Goon Hammer, which is a very good website. Yeah, it all sounds cool. It's just a matter of getting used to the terrain or the measurement symbols and make sure you're in your mind you match it with the right numbers of inches. Zara, this game doesn't feel like it's for you. I mean, it's certainly not going to be for everybody. That's a great shot right there. Don't look at your reload in the middle of combat. So yes, that's sneaking and spotting. Basically, just talking about the two different orders that you apply to your operatives. And who knows, maybe one day there'll be more. Games Workshop does love to add layers and layers and layers of additional rules on their games once they've been out for a little while. There are missions, as you would of course expect. Awaken the data spirits. And then you've got cool, like... I love missions because of wacky rules they have. Super bizarro starting setups like this. Drop zones in the corners like that. And then all of this stuff in the middle. And these are great to, just to get ideas from. Because again, if you're playing a game like this, you don't have to go by every single rule that's in the book, every single rule that's written for a mission. You can make your own. Or take this mission and you only use the parts that you think are fun. That's just fine. I like wacky. I do. I am a fan of wacky missions. Anything where stuff gets moved around randomly, stuff does damage. I like things like that. Secure Archaeotech. Don't mind if I do. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Those narrow drop zones where you can get all the way across the board. That's fun. I like it. Disengage tech. Escalating hostilities. I've heard that one before. Yep, stuff randomly explodes. Those are the best missions. Anyway, so lots of missions in Kill Team, as we would expect. Because that's what we want. This also came out a little while ago, but there are video tutorials, so you can learn how to play just by watching videos. And it's, like I said, I didn't know who this guy is. I think he's like an in-house Games Workshop. He seems like an in-house Games Workshop fella. He describes things very well. He is a tiny bit awkward on camera, but that's fine, seemingly. He doesn't seem like a hired gun, like they brought in an online person to do this kind of stuff, which they've done in the past to varying degrees of success. This is the kind of thing that Becca Scott did for a while. She was great. I don't know why she's not on... He's a GW staffer. Okay. I mean, that's what I assumed. somebody noted that if you watch very carefully these videos, this guy will say a sentence, and then he'll stop the sentence, and he'll do the same goofy smile every time. Every time he says something, then he does that. And what I think is going on, in my professional opinion, is that for editing purposes, they just had him do different takes of every sentence by itself so that they could edit it together in different ways and with different camera shots and interspersing the models. So they always wanted him to go back to a essentially like a blank expression in between every one. His just happens to look just slightly odd. But anyway, that's right, exactly. That's my professional streamer opinion on what's going on there. Yeah, it's fine. He does a great job of explaining things. I think I watched 2 out of the 3 videos. It got me interested and excited in the game, so it's all good. I mean, if they want somebody with a little bit more streaming experience, I'm available to do videos. And then, of course, Octarius is just the beginning for a new age of Kill Team. So we've got Death Corps and Orc Commandos here. And then... Whew, okay. So the way they're doing this is war zones. And we talked about war zones. War zones are partly narrative, partly just excuses for Games Workshop to come out with new rules that theoretically happens in new places. Octarius, yes, Octarius. Undead Saints fan. He looks like he's smirking after stealing the last bit of cookie dough ice cream. Fair. Yeah, Warzone's not a new thing. Games Workshop does seem to be really heavily leaning into Warzones these days, but it's all good. So currently we are in War Zone Octarius, July, August, September, with Death Corps, Krieg, and Orc Commandos. And then every 3 months, there will be a new War Zone with new setting, new models, new kill zone. Okay, what does this mean? Well, last night I was watching some YouTube videos by Uncle Adam. His channel is, what's his channel again? I always forget the name. I'm so bad with my YouTubers. There's so many. They all eventually just blend together. I know they're great. There are lots of great YouTubers, but I always forget their names because so many of their names are so similar. Anyway, you all know who I'm talking about. Now, Uncle Adam seems like a good guy. Talked about him before. His videos they're a little clickbaity. A little clickbaity. Now, he puts out videos on a regular schedule. A video, at least one video a week. I think they always come out on a Saturday night. Plus, he does some live streaming and some other stuff. He puts out a lot of content. He's got a lot of followers. He just recently crossed 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. Fucking awesome. That's fantastic. He seems like a good voice for the hobby. That's great. Love it. But his stuff is a little clickbaity. This most recent one was, what do I do with my kill teams that are now illegal? It's like, oh my god, I gotta throw out my models. Well, I don't know if you need to throw out your models. And essentially what the point of the video was, rules that covered how to build kill teams in the previous edition are different now in the current one. And if you are... So there's another kind of weird thing that went on in that video. I imagine that up until this point, if you are a Warhammer 40k player, or if you're a kill team player, there's a good chance that you have at least tried the other. I can't imagine there are a lot of people who just play kill team and don't play 40k. I'm sure there are some, but I imagine that number is fairly small. So furthermore, I imagine that if you play kill team, you're playing kill team with an army that you already play with in 40k. Or it's a secondary army or something to that extent. I'm assuming tabletop minions. Thank you. Again, I they're all good. I get the names. I just completely forget the names. I imagine that the number of people out there is small who are into kill team and go out and buy a bunch of kill teams or build a bunch of kill teams that's their only models for that army. Now I know it exists. And I know people do that, and that's fine. But when somebody like Uncle Adam starts off by saying, I have 8 kill teams, and now none of these I can't play any of these in the new rules. I have to say, okay, hold on a second. Number one, I don't think this applies to the vast majority of people out there. Yeah, Robin Wombat, like I said, I know some people do it. I know some people get into kill team with armies that they already have for 40k, and then they pick up a couple of other kill teams. So I know it does happen. But that being said, videos like this, I think can be detrimental to people coming in, because this video presupposes that you're only playing in situations where you are not allowed to have any model that even slightly deviates from the rules as written. And that's not most people or most places or most situations that you're going to play these games. Exactly, Robin Wombat. In most situations, if I have a Necron Immortal, but I need to have warriors instead, it's going to be just fine if you play that Necron Immortal as a Necron warrior. It's almost the exact same size. Yep, he's got a little bit more armor. The gun is a little different. But if it's a warrior, then it's a warrior. Who cares? I mean, Uncle Adam was going on and on about like his plague champion for his Death Guard that he can't use anymore because the model has a sculpted plasma gun on his back being held on by a tentacle. He's like, well, I can't play that because the new one doesn't have access to a plasma gun. It's like, really? I mean, that discussion is fine and is certainly applicable to some people. But again, for the vast majority of people, and especially, dear God, especially anybody new watching, at least give the caveat that most people aren't going to give a shit if there's a different gun on the back of the I mean, come on. Like the level of competitive play you would have to be doing for that to matter is like, I'm at Games Workshop headquarters in an officially sanctioned tournament. Like, who gives a shit? That is meaningless to the vast majority of players. So yeah, so that kind of stuff, for me at least, it goes even beyond. It's a little bit clickbaity, first of all, but it also it reinforces some negative stereotypes, I think, without adequately saying. Because you can certainly say, look, if you want to be exactly right, and if you want to model all of your stuff specifically, certainly people want to do that. Go ahead and do that. Here's what you need to know. But for all those people who just want to have fun, none of the shit matters. Just play whatever the fuck you want to play. Be cool to each other and play the game. Anyway. Yes, if Janelle wants to use Shawn Michaels as Mortarion, do it, of course. If somebody shows up and has I am way on the lenient scale of things. But yeah, I mean, if you've built a Space Marine army out of My Little Ponies, I would love to see that. I would love to play against that. Use HeroClix model, whatever. I just want to play the game. I just want to have fun. I know. Are you trying to have fun? Yeah. Some people will find any excuse not to have fun with their hobby or with their game. It's like they're looking for reasons not to have fun. Yeah, Robin Wombat, exactly. Is this for an officially sanctioned tournament? Nope. Then do whatever the fuck you want. Just be clear with your opponent what you have and play the game. So yeah, that bugged me a little bit, seeing that kind of video. Just because, again, I don't want new people seeing something like that and getting the wrong idea about how all this stuff works. Yeah, build. I want more halflings. I want more ratlings. Ratlings in Space Marine helmets. And again, yes, there are some people who take that idea and then twist it and model for advantage. But again, you don't have to play with those people. Squats, right? We need more squats. So anyway, that's the last I'm going to talk about that. Like, I'm not specifically trying to pick on Uncle Adam. Anyway, it's fine, but just, keep that kind of stuff in mind when you see things like that. And if you hear people talking about that, just be like, or you could just be cool and play games with cool people, and then you don't have to worry about it. Well, like, he needs the views. So if you go on Games Workshop right now, you can purchase the Kill Team Essentials collection, which of course does not include the actual new models, but you get both of the books, the cards, the dice, or the cards, the tokens, the blah 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 blah, whatever. So essentially there are these two new rules. There's the Kill Team core book that has all of the rules and the missions and all of that kind of stuff. And then there's the compendium. Now, the compendium, the compendium is very much similar to the index books that Games Workshop put out for Warhammer 40k when 8th edition came out. If you were not around back then, 8th edition fundamentally changed how the game worked. So you couldn't keep using old data sheets or anything like that. It was all new rules, all new layouts for things. Changed a lot of stuff, so you need all new information. And again, we don't. Yeah, Robin went back. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Games Workshop can't release all of the codexes for every army at the release of a new edition. It's cost prohibitive. It doesn't make sense from a marketing point of view. They want to sell more books over time. They want to change how armies work together over time. Blah, 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 blah. So they came out with these indexes that were just cover to cover, just data sheets for all of the units. New stats, new points, go. No art, no lore, very just data sheets. Very boring book, but very useful to play the game. That's what this compendium is for Kill Team. It is a book of data sheets and how to build your kill teams for all of the other kill team factions other than Astra Militarum veterans, Death Corps, and Orc commandos. With this book, you can immediately play kill team with all of your different armies. So that's great. As some people have pointed out, though, it is pretty clear that as an index, this book has very few options for your kill teams. There's not a ton of customizability, especially in things like Space Marines and some of the other ones. And this, combined with that thing that we just saw about the future calendar of releases and war zones with new models and new kill zones and new rules, it very much seems like you have to buy the compendium if you want to play all your other armies, your other kill teams, but every one of those kill teams is going to get a new box with a new book and new models at some point, and those are going to be the really fun ways to build your teams and give you all the options. just like in 8th edition, if you want to play now, you got to buy the index, but eventually you're going to get a codex that's going to have all of the cool stuff in it. It's a thing. It's just the way this game seems to be going. Now, if you're somebody who has 8 kill teams, buy the compendium. That way you can play all your stuff, and then eventually when the new things come out, if you really want this one versus this one, then you can pick up something else. If you only ever really play one kill team anyway, maybe don't get the compendium. Wait till your specific kill team gets its new War Zone package, whatever. But yeah, it's an interesting position to put players in. Did they split a single book into multiples and are selling each of those for... So, Fadir, not exactly, but there are 2 books. There's the rule book and then the compendium, which is essentially how to build all of your kill teams. Each for $50. Zarda says, if you have 8 kill teams, then you're going to be buying the new stuff anyway, because you have poor impulse control. Absolutely kidding. Absolutely not kidding, is what you what you mean by that. But yeah. So, racking up all of this stuff is definitely going to be expensive, but hopefully people out there can figure out, okay, well, I need this, but I don't need this. And I wish you luck. I have not pre-ordered or purchased any of this stuff yet. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm excited to play the game. I'm not excited about buying 100 different books in order to play that game. Also, though, very notably, what Games Workshop has said but not said, but also said, is that for all of these kill teams that are coming out with their own specific rules in these new Warzone things, they're going to be getting new models. So in theory, we're going to get a ton of new models over this next year and a half, at least, for a bunch of different armies. So that's cool. If you're only able to get them through a big box that you have to pre-order, and then if you wait too long on a Saturday morning and then you're in the queue that you're not going to get it for another 6 months and blah, 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 blah. It might be a pain in the ass anyway, but at least you should be able to get them. Doesn't the Games Workshop app for Warhammer Vault the Codex for a subscription fee? I'm not sure actually how that works. You pay for... I think so, yeah, right? You get... If you pay for the subscription, you get access to all the things. But that's also, though, notably, that's for just for 40K. So this is Kill Team, which takes place in that universe, but doesn't share rules, especially anymore. Now they're completely separate. Yeah. But look, you can also buy fancy new dice. Including Chaotica dice. And these rad new Adeptus Astartes dice, which... There's... Oh, man. I love Halloween, but separate from Halloween, I'm not a huge fan of orange on black. And that symbol is not very well done. Okay, I don't need these for $35. I officially do not need them for $35. Zardoz, the chapter that you are about to paint yourself because you know you want Halloween-themed Space Marines. I know I've seen it done. Actually, somebody did, some amazing hobbyist with just incredible painting and modeling skills I saw online did a Space Marine army that was Halloween-themed. They all had pumpkin heads. And it just looked goofy as shit, but it was really, really well done. And it's like, oh, that's something. You put a lot of time and skill into something. But more power to that person. Okay, Now we're gonna get into the big stuff, folks. You ready for this? Lead your action figure army with this Gravis Armored Ultramarines Captain. Sadly, it comes from Bandai, not McFarlane. But we'll get into that. So it says, with all the Space Marine action figures now on your shelves, you've probably considered adding another tier to the rather flat chain of command. It's your lucky day because you can pre-order this imposing Ultramarines Captain action figure from our partners at Bandai right now. So first of all, to remind you, Bandai was first to come out with an action figure. It was an Ultramarines Intercessor, Primaris Intercessor. It's this one right here. It's big, it's bulky, it's heavy, it's got a bunch of extra shit, it's rad. It's expensive, it's $100. Then they came out with some other chapters. You got your Imperial Fist, you've got your Salamanders. They're great if you're into that sort of thing. I think there's another one, right? Anyway, it says both acts. So these are the standard Space Marines. They're 8 inches tall, massively posable with 53 points of articulation. Each leg alone has 12. Okay. Now, a lot of people who are in the Warhammer community are seeing these announcements. And yes, the captain that we're about to look at right here, who is just, man, that Gravis armor looks heavy as shit. Like, as I talk about this one, it looks like a fat guy who is like, oh, he's got to lean over to lift his arm up in order to shoot. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if I would have chosen this pose to feature so prominently in the marketing materials, but it's fine. No, these are all built with their helmets permanently attached. I mean, I'm sure you can pull it off, but there's no head. There are other. Okay, so here it's big, it's bulky, it's a big deal. Now, for all those people out there who looked at this and said, $240. Now, is that a lot of money for an action figure? Yes, of course. Of course it is. But it's kind of like, so you know that meme now about you can interject anything you want, but how do you say you're not a historian without saying you're not a historian when somebody says something stupid about history, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of the complaints about this action figure to me feel like, how do you say you're not an action figure collector without saying you're not an action figure collector? Toys are expensive. Toys are expensive as shit. Toys are expensive as fuck, I will tell you. Toys are very expensive. If you look now, again, this is, so if a Primaris Intercessor is 8 inches tall, we're talking roughly 7-inch scale, but scales are whatever. It just matters how big the toy is. Hot toys. Let's talk about hot toys for a second. Toys are very expensive. It's true. It's true. And welcome, Uzi. Hot Toys, if you're not familiar with them, Hot Toys is a company out of the East, and they make incredibly detailed action figures that are 12-inch scale, so they are larger, depending on the character. Come with just an insane amount of articulation, sculpts that look like they've taken an actor and somehow shrunk him down. They're amazing. Extra shit. Sometimes they have lights, blah, 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 blah. It is not uncommon to have a Hot Toys single action figure that's $300, $350, even more. Okay, so the action figure world, especially action figures out of Japan or Ryback-san, you are not incorrect, but out of Japan, out of Hong Kong, action figures are very, very expensive. Yeah, there are busts and things like that. That's true. And Hot Hot Toys is pretty much the pinnacle of mass-produced action figures in the world. I mean, there's no company there's no company that's creating action figures of the numbers that they create with better quality anywhere. There are some like really niche companies that only produce very limited runs that might be better in some ways. They're also probably very much more expensive even. All I'm trying to say is that if you're in the action figure world, action figures are expensive. They cost a lot of money. So for this to be $240, like that by itself is not something that should completely blow your mind. Now, it's a lot of money, and you should say, okay, well, what am I getting for $240? I'm not saying that you should just automatically accept that and buy a bunch of them, but it's not the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. All right, so let's dig in a little bit more. First off, it says these pictures show a prototype version. Very important to note, because if you look closely, there are some clues that this is very much a prototype and not a final output. There's kind of like a weird texture that you can see in a lot of places. So some of these parts may be 3D printed, quite possibly, or it's just artifacting from the prototyping. Because remember, and I've talked about this a lot, but when you're creating a toy, there's a huge process you have to go through as far as sculpting a prototype, whether that's physically or in 3D. You have to mock up the prototype in different forms. Then you have to have somebody paint it. And anyway, so this is very clearly, to my eyes, even before they said that, this is a prototype. It's not going to look exactly like this. Again, in mostly I think in that the surfaces will be smoother than what you see here. Also, you can tell just by looking at these two, the paint finish is very different on a lot of the parts. Nitty gritty stuff, but I think important to note. Gravis Armor. Okay, what else do we have? He's got a power sword, Boltstorm Gauntlet, 8.5 inches tall with crest, 51 points of articulation, same proportions. Cape is removable, multiple hand options. Okay, so everything we're hearing is increasing the cost. Articulation, more parts on the figure, more parts that you can swap out on the figure. Everything ratchets that price point up. Here we've got some more poses. So unfortunately, so this is the kind of figure I look at and say, with as bulky as it is, why does this figure need 51 points of articulation? You are clearly not going to get super posability out of this thing just because the range of motion is just not enough. I mean, look at this running forward charging pose here. You could accomplish that with a third the points of articulation. But hey, articulation is great, especially on something that's heavily armored like this, because the armor hides so much of what otherwise would look like ugly joints on a model. The final figure will be composed of injection molded plastic and die cast metal pieces. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Making the Ultramarine Captain feel even sturdier and more substantial than previous action figures. In fact, it's nearly 3 times heavier with the addition of those cast metal internal components. Now that is a big deal when it comes to toys. Right, in case you want to... I mean, hey, you could probably bash somebody with this and do a lot of damage. When we move from talking about a plastic toy to a toy that includes die-cast metal, that's a big deal. Now we're in a whole different universe as far as collectibles are concerned. Most action figures do not include metal components. Metal components, as you might expect, involve a completely different form of molds and casting, a whole other process for production, and then mixing and matching that with your plastic stuff. There's a lot that goes into that. And yes, that's money, money, money. Yes, metal components. Again, oh, this is a really good one. Look at this. Like you can see all that, like all that texture. That's because this is a hand painted prototype, and it will not look like that in the final version. When is this thing coming out, actually? Let's see if we can figure this out here. So we've got Ultramarines Captain action figure. Product is made to order and will be delivered in 210 working days. So we're 210 working days, yeah. So what is that? That is... How many months out are we? In 210... Oh, 210 working days. Oh, shit. What's the math on that? Oh, is it 42 weeks? Nice. So yeah, okay. That makes sense then. 8 months. Okay. If you remember, and I know this is, for a lot of you, this is old news. Toy production is about a year. So that explains why... Well, number one, it explains why the pre-order is going up now, because this toy is now in production, and it also explains why all of the marketing and promo shots are only prototypes. Okay, Zardos. Bad is a subjective term. Some people will look at this and think it looks amazing, and that's fine. I don't love it. I think the Gravis Armor looks good on on some miniatures that are this big, not all miniatures, and I don't. Now again, if this were made by McFarlane, who's making the other line of 40K action figures that already there are a million of them, this figure might be, man, at the highest end, this figure might be $100 from McFarlane. Probably not even that, honestly, considering how inexpensive the McFarlane toys are. If this were Terminator armor, it would suck less. Well, that goes without saying. If there were Terminator action figures, I would definitely pay attention. Yeah, true. Especially with these enormous honking feet and the metal components inside, this figure is going to stand up for sure. You will not be able to pose this thing in a way that it will fall over. So again, all the point of what I'm talking about here is that I'm going to say, is it a lot of money for an action figure? Obviously, yes. $240 for an action figure is a lot, no matter what we're talking about. Is it completely beyond the pale and indecipherable why it's that much money? No. There are... Looking at the broader action figure world and the collectibles world and how materials and distribution works these days, I can understand why this toy is $240. Now, does this mean Ruiner? Thank you so much for that resubscription. I appreciate it. Oh, shoot, I don't have my... Where are my browser alerts? It's because I have all of my windows reconfigured. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Now, did Bandai need to include the die-cast metal in this that increased the cost as much as it did? I don't know. There's a good chance that they prototyped this thing out in plastic and it kept falling over because of the big backpack and the cape. And they're like, fuck, how are we going to make this stand up, right? Well, if we put metal in it and redistribute the redistribute the weight. That was a good slip. Redistribute the weight. Maybe that's why they needed it. Because again, this thing does very much look like the model, right? We all have a Gravis Captain, Ruiner. All right, here we go. Starting over. I know, right? Redistributing wealth. This super does look like a Gravis Captain model. yeah, anyway, it's I am very interested. I would love to know how many of these they were planning on making, how many sales they get, how many they end up making. I don't think they will ever tell us that information. Obviously, this is going to be a smaller edition size than. Well, even that too would be interesting to find out. Anything Ultramarines, they're going to make this many of, just right off the bat. But I wonder if the edition size for this captain is going to be more or less than the intercessor for the Imperial Fists or the Salamanders. Because obviously those they're going to make fewer of. There are just fewer Imperial Fists and Salamanders people out there than there are Ultramarines. So they're definitely going to make fewer of these than the intercessor for the Ultramarines. But again, like I wonder where all those edition sizes break down. And while this is for sale, so it gets even more complicated, but this is for sale through Games Workshop, $240, made to order, but that doesn't mean the same thing it does for other made to order things from Games Workshop. We can imagine that when Games Workshop puts up something made to order, that they literally make that many and that's it, right? You've either pre-ordered it through the website, you've pre-ordered it through your local store, so they're going to make that number plus a handful of extras in case something arrives damaged, or a shipment gets lost or something. So there's automatically going to be a few more made. But on something like this, they're going to have a pretty good idea of how many of these they need to make. But also, Bandai is going to need some to sell through their channels in other countries. Yeah, I'd love to know this kind of stuff. Not like to look for things they're doing wrong or crazy, but it's just interesting for the industry. Anybody who's interested in this should be thankful that they're not putting lights in these models and sound chips and all that other shit to make them even more expensive, which they very much could. I could definitely see one of those with a little button under the backpack that lights up the eyes, maybe even into one of the guns or the power sword. That'd be cool. So, anyway, this thing exists. It will be coming. There will be wealthy collectibles people who will show these off on their streams and in their collections. It says, "Buy me, Scott." Yeah. I will not be purchasing one of these. A couple of years ago, when these deals were first announced, and I'll reveal this because who the fuck cares? We, the Figures.com team and I, we spoke with representatives from Bluefin, like the importer for Bandai and various other people, about working with them and sharing the word about these and getting the word out to the broader action figure community who may not be familiar or as familiar with Warhammer or hear about these things, especially if they're mainly sold through the stupid Games Workshop website. And as a fan of the property and as a player and as somebody who can actually talk about what the hell everything on this model is, and they seemed interested, and then we never heard from them again. So, anyway, I could have done incredibly good reviews on these things and promo pieces and talking about them, but they apparently weren't interested. What are you gonna do? Oh my god, Darian, if they did a Noise Marine, I can see McFarlane maybe doing one of those eventually. And those are only, McFarlane action figures are only about $20. For the standard versions, if you can find them from a regular store, then I would buy. I'm a little salty about that, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to buy two because I'm a wealthy coastal elite. Oof, I wish. But honestly, that kind of shit happens all the time, especially at conventions. You talk to people, and as much enthusiasm as we have, and as much enthusiasm as they pretend, and they'll write down stuff, and then you fucking never hear from these people again. Whatever. It's how the game is played. Are any of you going to order this action figure? It doesn't sound like. That's fine. They'll be out there. I'm really glad McFarlane is doing. Oh, excuse me. McFarlane is doing what they're doing, offering. You're not even gonna do it, even if it was a Black Templar. All right, fair. What if it was a traditional, not a Primaris, but a traditional Black Templar Emperor's Champion? Then you could recreate that amazing old mini with all the trappings. I don't know. Everybody has their price. Yeah, and we know for a fact that. Oh yeah, well okay. If Hot Toys came in on this, sure. Death McTermott. See, so a lot of you have there are things that you'd consider at least. So that's where we are with toys. And of course, like I said, McFarlane continues to crank out just figure after figure. We're getting a ton of orcs coming soon from McFarlane, which is going to be great. And those are bigger and beefier. They cost a little bit more money. They are nowhere near $240. But we'll talk about those when all of the details come out. So now, the biggest news. The biggest event to shock the world. We'll see if the page even loads. Starting today, super early this morning, depending on where you are in the world, for 24 hours only, watch a free episode of Hammer and Bolter, the anthology animation series coming exclusively to Warhammer Plus. So Warhammer Plus launches this Wednesday somehow. Warhammer Plus, yes. Warhammer Plus is the streaming service for Warhammer, all Warhammer content. So you get an exclusive miniature. Yes, Uzi. That's a lot of people's reaction. We talked about all the stuff that's coming in Warhammer Plus that we know of. Yeah, okay. So this first episode that's out now, you can watch it. We're not going to watch it on stream. I don't want to be DMCA'd. I'll probably put this stream on YouTube. I don't want to get shut down on YouTube. But it does exist. It's called Old Bale Eye. About a very specific commissar character. I'm not going to give away the story. You can watch it for yourself. It's free. Anybody can watch it. It's about 23 minutes. I watched it earlier today. I had a little bit of buffering issue. I think a lot of people are watching this thing. What can we say about this? Well, I think we can say a lot. Yeah, my reaction video. I mean, I'm going to talk about it in vague terms. So this is a character that's been in Warhammer 40k for a very long time. A human character and an orc character. All right. Overall, Uzi, it's $6. It's $6 per month, or you can buy a whole year for a slight discount. But you get actually some physical models, or well, one model. Do they have? I think they have it on this page. Yeah, so you get one of these models with your subscription for a year. There is content. Let's put it that way. There is content. We don't know exactly how much. I love that in this promo they show you his ass, because like, to determine if I want to spend money on subscribing to a streaming service for a year, I need to know what this model's ass looks like. That's the thought process that went into this specific promo image that they included on this page. Hudsonizer, welcome. You came at the perfect time to hear about the ass of this miniature. I mean, this miniature is fantastic. Like, all joking aside and all complaints about Warhammer Plus, these miniatures are fucking great. They are great. But, anyway. So what is this animation? Okay, so this animation is roughly... So if you were watching a half an hour cartoon, that usually equates to about 22 minutes of content. And that's what this episode is. Is it good like Captain America, First Avenger, bad like Robotech? You watch your words, Ruiner. Hudsonizer, congratulations. You just moved into your dorm. That's awesome. Okay, so this episode of Hammer and Bolter, which again is an anthology series, so you're going to get a lot of like one-offs. Maybe there'll be multiple episode stories. We just don't know. It has kind of a cool framing story. It's an orc runt herd. So these are orc boys who are in charge of Gretchen, telling stories to younger orc boys. And he's telling the tales of Old Bale Eye, this mythical... Oh, a knob, sorry, yes, a knob. Of this mythical human enemy who has fought orcs before and will again. And I love it. I love that idea. First of all, I love the idea of runt herds being like the bards of the orcs. I don't know if that's canon already or not, but that's a super great detail. It's cool that this story is couched in the very specific orc point of view. So a lot of orcisms about, we get humies and like all of the typical language that we'd expect, but also the sort of the cultural things, like what orcs value and what they think is important and what they think is strong in this human. And they go out of their way to say, yeah, he's just a puny little human, but look at how tough he is and how much he's accomplished despite his small size and weak stature, which is great. The stories that they tell are right out of Warhammer lore, so if you're familiar with the lore, you'll recognize the stories and the characters. And overall, it's fine. Overall, it's fine, I will say. Some interesting notes. I took a couple notes as I was watching it. We see orcs. We see a lot of orcs get killed and maimed. It's very violent. It's very bloody. Humans as well, but a lot of orcs especially. We see a lot of orc technology, which is cool. Teleportas, so orcs teleporting. Orc spaceships. Orc drop ships that are made from just asteroids with a bunch of engines attached to it. A lot of cybernetics. All of that kind of stuff, which is great. We hear orcs say "wah," and it sounds like "wah." No R at the end, no G at the end. It's just "wah." I was definitely listening to see if they were going to do that. Orcs have red blood, which some people have argued before or found an interesting point. They're fungus and they're green, but they have red blood. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. I thought also very cool on the human side, we see a variety of characters and units. We see a bunch of tanks. We see some scions in a couple scenes. We see a Ratling very prominently. There's a Ratling sniper in this. In one shot, but Erdansk, I've talked about this too much. Why and how Games Workshop pronunciations work. And why it's WAAAGH, and how apparently people all this time have been saying WAG or WAR, and it fucking blows my mind, but you pronounce it how you want to pronounce it, and it's fine. But yeah, I thought that was cool that they included all of these little things in there. I will also say that I think the music was great. Great thematic music in this episode. the animation was okay. At some points, the animation was great. There were peaks where there was a lot of stuff moving, and it was great. Most of the animation felt like something that was produced for YouTube. Not to say it was bad, not to say it was unwatchable. You know, a lot of like static backgrounds, only certain things moving, motion that's not super smooth. But, you know, it is what it is. We've seen previews for other animations come into Warhammer Plus that has different styles, different amounts of money put into it, seemingly. Even within this series, the Hammer and Bolter series, different episodes are going to have some different animation styles, seemingly, from what we've seen. So, again, animation is... I'd say the animation was decent. At some points, being good. But that's you know, subjective. Very notably, and I immediately had this thought, and I know Arsenal Roy did as well. At the end of the episode, I think there were, what was it, 3 credits? The story is by the Warhammer Story Forge, which is this mythical writing room that's in charge of all of these animation projects. Animation by whatever this studio is called, and then music by some dude. I only remember those 3 titles. Oh, and then like Games Workshop. There might have been one more that I'm forgetting, but I think that was it. In 2021, that is entirely unacceptable. And baffling to me. For as much as we complain about Games Workshop's everything, I am flabbergasted that they did that. Now, clearly, the stuff that's going on here is done in such a way that it's not under any sort of union protections or anything like that. Like, we assume all that already, but for them to produce this kind of content and share it with the world, and this thing that's available for free is going to be viewed 1 million times, maybe? Well, I mean, it's only available for 24 hours, so not that many times, but a lot of times. And this is like the headline thing. This is the preview for their new streaming service, for their new animation. And there are no credits for the fucking people who worked on this? For the writers, for the animators, for the voices. That's not great. Now we know that animators who were doing fan animation on YouTube that Games Workshop hired, put over a barrel and hired for some of these projects, had no say in what was going to happen, but they get to work with Games Workshop. And again, you can argue good and bad about all that stuff, but dear God, not even to be credited on your work that's going to be seen by a ton of people? That's literally the preview that's being put out for this streaming service? Yikes. That's a big yikes from me. I mean, you gotta credit people. So that was disappointing. I always go into things like this. You know, look, we can all be jaded about corporations in general, capitalism in general, Games Workshop specifically. But you know, I'm pretty open to new things that come out. I'm not always looking at things saying, oh, you know, this is just a cash grab when most things are, and you know, stuff like that. But the fact that this had no, this disappointing, very disappointing the credits issue. And I don't know. I have not looked anywhere online to see what the overall thoughts or reactions to this are. I assume people are talking about that, but I haven't checked. Yeah, exactly, Zarda. It's like, people put a lot of effort into this. It's not the most polished animation ever. The voices were totally fine. I also want to say, now this is just available on whatever this janky ass fucking internet player is. I hate this player, whatever it is. But there's no option for closed captioning, which disappoints me on several levels. I am an old person. I like to watch things with closed caption. I have little kids. I like to watch things with closed caption. I do all of that for personal preference. There are lots of people out there who have hearing issues. Zarda says, closed captioning requires us to hire people to do it. There are automated programs now that, well, with the Orc Talk, I guess you couldn't do it. I'm assuming that on Warhammer Plus, the actual streaming service, you'll be able to turn on closed captioning. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I know my Roku has like global settings where we can turn on closed captioning, and usually it works when you get down into the different services, but not always. I don't know if this will have. It would be great if, you know what? Yeah, I mean, on the same span, yeah, like there are device, like you can set a device to do it over whatever the other things are, but it's gonna have trouble with some of the words in the Orc Talk. I'm going to tweet at Warhammer and ask them, and I urge you all to retweet and ask them too, because I think it's pretty important. I like I said, I haven't checked reaction. Maybe a bunch of people are talking about this already, and that, you know, these things should be brought up. It costs money. I know it costs money, but it doesn't cost much money, and they could have an intern sit there and do it. Anyway, after the stream, I'll do it. I don't want to spend the time now. But yeah, again, as somebody who uses closed captioning for personal preference, I noticed this. But again, if you have a hearing disability and you wanted to check out this new thing, you're just shit out of luck. Like, that sucks. That's not cool. So, that's two whole Gravis captains. Yeah. I'll scrub through for a couple of shots. Like I said, I'm certainly not going to play this or play the audio on stream. I guess spoilers for some if you don't know the story or the characters or these. But yeah. So I don't know. Again, at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest with you. I am almost certainly going to subscribe to Warhammer Plus. I'm going to be honest. There are plenty of issues I have with Games Workshop, with the rollout of this thing, with all of these other things, but I'm going to do it. Oh, Arsenal Roy, awesome. Definitely let me know that, because I want to include that person. Thank you. That's great. I would do all the tweeting now, but my computer is already very, very hot. It's very hot in this room. I'm just running all of this stuff off my laptop, and it gets mad when I have cameras and OBS and Windows, and so I'm gonna tweet after. I'm gonna let my computer cool down. I guess I could do it on my phone, but yeah. So anyway, full transparency, I'm gonna sign up for this stupid thing. I'm gonna do it. I want the model. I want to see the animations easily without having to pirate it. I hope. I mean, on some level, the animators and the independent people they've hired to work on this stuff, they are going to get paid in some way, and I'd like to support that as well. So I'm going to subscribe at least for this first year. So yeah, anyway, that's me. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sure, I would imagine some of you will be subscribing also. You don't have to tell us whether or not you are going to, but yeah. Okay, let me... Okay, how do I do this? I want to get rid of window capture. Yeah, exactly. And I would like this to succeed. I would like this to grow. Transform, fit to screen. Okay. And I'm big again. It's Games Workshop. They might not be paid. I mean, different animators have come forward. We've heard from animators who were hired by Games Workshop. We've heard from animators who were offered jobs and who declined the jobs. So we know that we know a little bit about that process. Not a lot, no specific details, but we know a little bit. Ruiner says, between Disney, Amazon, and now GW, it's going to be a fight to see who gets my corpse in the upcoming Corporation Wars. Yeah, it's this whole streaming thing is bonkers. I still think that somebody needs to make an app where users log into the app and there's a list of all of the streaming services, and you say, I want, and you check off all the streaming services that you want, and then the app links you into pods with other people who want all of those services, and then you each person pays for one service and then shares the password with the rest of the people in your pod, so you can all share your things. Obviously that's not technically legal, so you'd have to outsource how the data gets collected and matched up, but hey, somebody do that. Or, we could just do it on our own for fun. In Roblox, obviously this all would be in Roblox, not in the real world. This would be some fantasy thing you could do in a video game, but yeah. Now, Fadir, you bring up an interesting point too. All of this Warhammer Plus nonsense, this could all be a test. This could all be just a way for Games Workshop to sort of prove their IP is valuable and then try to sell it to somebody bigger and try to be... I liken it to... I know not everybody has it, but HBO Max. When you go into HBO Max, other ones have it too, where like you log into one of these bigger streaming services and then it has hubs, right, for different content within. Yeah, actually that's on Paramount Plus and some of the other ones. So yeah, exactly, WWE. So maybe Games Workshop is trying that, is trying to have like a really big first year, get a bunch of people signed up, and then be able to say, hey, look, we're producing content, we got a bunch of people who are interested in this. Maybe you want this on your bigger streaming service. Give us money. We can produce even more content, hire more animators. So, yeah, proof of concept, exactly. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how long Warhammer Plus is its own thing, or if it gets gobbled up into a larger service. Who knows?